over me. Run through the land, you run through my soul. Bring me wisdom and peace. Run through all ages and all of life's stages. You bring me around to find my release.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have an author and an artist, and the author is also an artist. Fern Nissim is right beside me, Fern Nissim, and she is the author of the Antiline book we're going to show you. It's adorable. It's for the kids, but it is so cute. Antiline's Brave Adventure, an original story by Fern's great-grandpa Samuel Davis. We're going to talk a lot about this. All right, this is an adorable. And right beside Fern, we have Sue Fleischman. Hi, Sue. And she is an artist. Would you say an illustrator or artist in general?
Artist in general. This is my first foray into illustration.
How did you two meet?
Well, we were both part of an art group in Shrewsbury.
Yeah?
And we found a lot of commonality about our interests in art, and started going to different galleries, cultural things together, and we really found that we enjoyed a lot of the same things.
Your grandfather wrote the book originally.
My father.
Your father wrote that?
Yes.
Okay. And then what did he do with it after? Did he publish it, or?
Well, what happened actually is he wrote, it's Antiline, and he wrote Antiline as a story for my children when they were very young, 4 and 6 years old, and he turned it over to me. I actually have the original publication of Antiline. I mean, it wasn't a publication. It was all done on the old typewriter.
Oh, God.
You can see, the typewritten pages.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. And he put it in a folder with my mother's name on.
And you've got a picture of him there, too.
Yes, I do.
Let's see the picture.
And he actually, yes, this is my dad.
He was your grandfather, right?
He was my dad.
He was your father.
He was the grandfather to my children. His name is Sam Davis.
Is he still with us?
Him? No, sorry to say he's not.
No.
And he wrote this story because he was trying to tell my children the story of how his family came to America. And they had gone through all kinds of hardships, as did Sue's grandparents. And instead of telling them the sad stories, he decided to put it into a little story about an aunt that had to really face adversity and all kinds of challenges to come to America. So that's really where it started. And then once it was done, he turned it over to me and he said, now do something with it.
Yeah.
So
he chose you?
He chose me to do something with it because he felt it was a little bit difficult for the children at that age to understand without drawings, and I had been an artist.
Were you the only sibling?
No, actually I come from 3 more sisters. There were 4 of us.
But he chose you.
He chose me. They were my children.
Yeah.
So he wanted my children to be able to understand and to be able to really grasp the concept. So that's why he wanted me to illustrate it. And and that was in 1977. So, fast forward, it's taken a few years. He got his wish, and I must tell you that we did the book, and I was so thrilled. And here's a picture of my son, who was the original child it was written for, reading it to his children, who are 4 and 6 years old now. There's twins, little boy twins.
Yeah.
And,
so you have how many grandchildren?
I have 3.
3. And had they read, you've got the book out now. It'll come out officially in October, right?
Yes.
What's the date that it'll officially come out?
We're not sure. It'll be before the holiday season. It'll be modified a little bit. The way this one was written is that it was really targeted specifically to them and dedicated to them. And the little story on the back page tells you a little bit about their heritage and also mentions the heritage of Sue's family. Mm-hmm. But we thought we would modify it a little bit. So we're changing it a little bit to make it more of a generic
It'll look like this,
appeal.
though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Changing text, just a
How long
drop,
did it
but
take you two to
everything.
write both? How long did it to get it together to get this done?
Well, it went through stages all summer. It was the summer off and on.
Several months.
Because I had to really go back. It was not written in rhyme originally. Mm-hmm. And because the story is about a little ant, everything in the story rhymes. Antiline, the ant, and all the adventures that she has are in rhyme. And she meets characters throughout the story. She comes through the servant colony, ant colony, and she finally meets who is actually run by the tyrant. Mm-hmm. You can see that in the first pages. It all rhymes. Good. She meets characters all the way through, and Sue helped develop and actually created some of these all the characters all the way through. Mm-hmm. I did the background. We decided that the ant's epilogue would happen during the seasons. So she starts in the fall season, and she works her way all the way through to the summer. So the flowers change. It's in a garden, so the botanicals change, and she meets all these wonderful characters all the way through.
Does this, now, Sue, watercolor, right?
Yes, it's
Okay, this is Sue. She's the one that did all the, I think, all the illustrations. Okay.
all the characters. Fern did the backgrounds, and we did some, I guess, research and doodling before we came up with the character and the background, beautiful flowers. You know, Fern did some research about how flowers grow and did some sketching.
Sue, have you done many children's books? Because you're
No,
great at it.
this is
This is your
basically my first. Antiline started out as a little stick figure. I don't know if you can see this.
A little
And-
stick figure.
A little stick figure, and she kind of moved around. I did this in pen and ink.
Yeah.
And then she started to get a little bit more body. And then I'm thinking about working with her expressions because she's got to be able to emote and let you know what's going on with her. And then she was sitting in certain positions. There were some stick figures. And eventually she morphed. And she morphed into more of a little character. This is the very first page of the story in which here's the tyrant, and she's a worker ant. She's a servant. She's looking across and she's saying, I'm not sure this life is not for me. I need to leave.
Yeah.
But then she became a little character, and then I needed to move the little character in space. And here are some more pictures of her, pictures in the book in which she actually has a personality, and you can see the little expressions on her face.
Sue, this is, obviously, this is a children's book talent for you. I mean, it stands right out. What other kind of art did you do before this?
I've been painting and sketching for as long as I can remember. I've had a few submissions in local shows, and I'm extremely honored to have been asked to display my art for the month of October at the Boylston Public Library.
Oh, I think we've had them on about their writers group. I think you have a writers group there. I'm
Right.
not sure. They're a great library.
Mhm.
Where else are you going to, well, you two are in tandem with the book. When you finally get out there and get it noticed, maybe go to the different places. Is she going to be
Right.
with you? Sue going to be with
Oh,
you?
yeah, we'll do
We're
it.
going to go and
Not-
bring our art.
Not for her show, but definitely we'll do a show later. But I wanted to just take a step off from that and show you how the sketches began, how we started working on. This is one of the preliminary ones where we had the text already kind of figured out, and we know Antiline needs to be. We need to show that Antiline is actually wanting to leave the colony. So we did a sketch. Sue did the sketch. I think I did the rough one. And here's the little character that she was creating and some of the words. But it didn't end up like that. So if you can see, it ends up in a different final. So it went through a process. There's all the little ants are sleeping, and she's sneaking out the door to her freedom.
So you worked on this together in a way.
Yes, basically what would happen is for those very preliminary sketches, Fern would give me the text and say, I'd like Antiline in the lower left-hand corner and approximately here. I'd like the little beds here. So she would give me that direction. I would put my character in after I drew it, throw it in Photoshop, make a JPEG file and send it back to her. It went back and forth several times, and then by the time we got to the point we were actually going to put the text and the her beautiful backgrounds and my little characters together, it turned out she did the background and handed me the watercolor paper, and I would put the character right there. I painted it right there.
So this
You
one,
work well together.
for example, here's the sketch,
Let's see.
and this will show you
It's
the
a
rough sketch.
Yeah.
So then Sue will have already been playing with what the character should look like.
Yep.
But then I would place the character in the drawing. And as you can see again, the flowers that I sketched originally didn't always end up to be the final design.
Yeah.
Because it would really depend on what time of the season this was. And we did a lot of research. I did a lot of research on botanicals. I have loved art since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be a children's illustration artist.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I have a collection of over 500 golden books that I have saved over the years. I'm a fanatic children's illustration wannabe illustrator wannabe, and but my life went in a different direction. I went to Mass College of Art, studied art, but I never really did anything with it. I ended up hiring other people to do all my graphic art over the years.
Now you can do it yourself.
When I had my own. But now, actually, we've been so excited about this. We've been talking about this for a while. We may go on to other projects together.
Well, you're in real estate too.
I am.
Lakefront Living. Where are you?
Yes, lakefrontliving.com is what I do now, and I only work with lakefront properties.
Okay.
So if you're looking to sell or buy a property on the
Worcester,
lake
right.
in Massachusetts,
Massachusetts,
Central Massachusetts, I'm the one. So
You're the one.
give me a call, or actually my email is fern@lakefrontliving.com, and I'll be happy to help you.
So what do you do? What's your other occupation?
I'm retired, and I've been teaching art at the Marlborough Senior Center for the last 3.5 years, and I absolutely love it.
At the Marlborough Senior Center.
Yes, and our group has had several shows. We're going to have our 3rd annual show at the Northborough Public Library in March.
Yeah.
We're invited back, and we have little shows at the Senior Center. I absolutely love teaching.
Yeah.
In fact, I brought the book into my class so people could see it, say that, there's not only one type of art. You could do landscapes, you can create little characters, you can do portraits. So there's lots of types of art.
So do you do, all right, it looks like I got a Sharpie, a black. Do you outline first, then use the watercolor, or do the watercolor design, then outline?
So I did the flowers. So the way that I approached that is that I would sketch out the flowers first, and then decide how I wanted to paint them in there, and do some final art, and then trace it onto the final illustration paper, paint it all in with watercolors, and then Sharpie afterwards. at
So
the end.
you drew it first with like a Sharpie with a dark pen.
With a pencil.
Yeah. And then you blacked it, you did the like a Sharpie.
Well,
extra
the
fine.
illustration, here's another example right here. So in this particular one, and again, we were trying to figure out exactly the placement of Antiline. This is a double page where Antiline goes through a little emotional breakdown when she finally falls off of, she's riding on the firefly, right?
Right.
The dragonfly. She's riding on a dragonfly. She falls off. She's trying so hard to get to the American colony where she knows she'll be free, where she wants to be free. But she's giving up. She's kind of sad. And then all of a sudden she realizes that there's some wonderful flowers. And she's smelling the flowers and realizing that what a wonderful place she is in.
Yeah.
But what we did with this, as you can see, is first that Sue worked on some of the sketches here of Antiline, and there's 2 different emotional scenarios. Then I started sketching in the flowers where I wanted them to be. And yes, I did work with a Sharpie first.
Yeah.
But then when I got the placement of it, then I went back and actually did the final pictures, traced it onto the final illustration, painted it in with watercolors, and then went back with the
So
Sharpie.
you both
It's
paint.
been
You both paint with watercolors.
We both paint.
We both paint with watercolors, but our styles are kind of different because I don't tend to outline. I drew the characters with pencil, and then I tried to use an eraser to get as much of the pencil away, and then I would go back. But since my style was a little bit lighter than Fern's in terms of having lighter colors and not working with many layers of paint, what I ended up doing is like we had to figure out how are we going to meld our styles together.
Right.
So what I ended up doing is going back and doing more layers so the colors are much more vibrant to match the pretty flowers.
Yeah.
Right.
So we had to work together to figure out
We did.
how are we going to meld our styles together, and I think we did it very successfully.
Do you think that you'll be going to some of the schools? This would be great.
I think so. Yeah. Well,
I can see that.
One of the things that we decided to do is put a map in the beginning.
Oh,
so that,
I love that. Okay.
So you could actually follow the trail of Antiline through the
American
process.
Ant Colony, Antiline's map.
Right.
Who designed? Did you design it? And then
Oh,
you,
definitely.
I did it.
you painted it too?
Yeah. Yeah, I did it.
How do you decide who's going to paint what? You're both talented.
Well, we kind of ended up deciding that
I
Sue's
would do the
forte would be the character, the development of the character,
So
and
she-
I would do all the background.
So she meets a lot of little characters. Here she starts out, and I showed this picture before. And she's going to meet the cooks,
The restaurants.
the restaurants,
Restaurant.
and they were marching. So
Yeah.
here's one of the other pages.
Are they in tunnels or are they all, well, some of them are, they're above with the flowers, but they're in tunnels.
Yeah,
They do go through
basically,
tunnels.
yeah,
What's
they
wrong
went
with
through
the
tunnels, but basically they're outdoors. And then she meets the Magnificants.
Oh, yes.
And those guys are all athletic. You have to be award-winning in that.
And she feels she's down in this lower right-hand corner, and she's feeling kind of intimidated. And she's not sure what she wants to do. And at some point, she does meet the little Americans,
Yeah.
and they are very friendly. And she's very tired, and she's not sure what she wants to do.
And that's after she's gone through crossing the pond. And
Right.
again, this is one that I did.
Oh, I love the turtle.
Right, is
Oh,
that turtle
so
adorable?
She thinks that she's going to sink in the pond, and she thinks she sees a shark and all that, but she's actually going across on a lily pad to get to the other side. So, I mean, she goes through all these adventures. She has wonderful adventures.
How can people reach you about your book?
Well, I guess just stay with Lakefront Living, Fern at lakefrontliving.com, and when we have a date on this, we will be promoting this, and we will be checking with all the libraries in the area and hoping to do story times and so forth.
Antiline's Brave Adventure. Pretty cute. I love the colors. I mean, is this going to be the exact...
It's going to be the same. And one thing I wanted to point out to you is the last page on there, Jan, which we kind of wrapped it up. The very last page is an illustration.
Did you know, it says, right?
Yes.
Did you know?
And it's Did You Know? And it's really just a little bit about, did you know that maybe your grandparents or your great-grandparents came from somewhere else? And they had to be very brave, just like Antiline.
Well, we were just talking about in genealogy.
Yes, you were.
I mean,
Same thing.
This gives kids a really nice intro to that type of thing. You know, this is
And there's
a
so
winner.
many commercials now on TV about DNA analysis,
Yeah.
and you know, it starts a conversation, and maybe their parents have looked up, you know, backgrounds of where their grandparents come from and so on. So it's a family conversation.
Now, if somebody out there wants you to, I know because I help authors and artists, but if they want you to come and do a speech coming after the book comes out, would they still reach you at that same?
I think they could.
I think for now.
Yeah, for now. They could reach me there, or they can call. Can I give my phone number?
Of course, if you want to.
Sure, it's 508-769-9661. 508-769-9661. And I'll be happy to set up interviews or whatever you like. We should be coming out with this in late October. What we've done is we've decided to publish it on Amazon, so you can look for it on Amazon right before the holiday season.
Right,
And
you'll get
it's-
to meet them personally, not just on Amazon, but you'll get to meet them personally eventually, which is, I think, my opinion, is the greatest way to meet an author. You put the face on the author, you hear them speak.
Right.
I'm more likely to buy a book from an author if I've met them in person.
Oh,
I'm not,
okay.
if I see it on Amazon, I really don't care. I want to meet them. If it's possible in the area, you know. I mean, I'm not going to go to
Sure.
California to meet them, but I really, really like them. Now, you two have anything coming up that, besides this book, are you going to work on another one?
Well, first of all, we haven't decided. Antiline may have other adventures because
Yeah.
there's lots of opportunity there.
Yeah.
But each of us are also working on our own little stories.
You're
Right.
writing a book too?
My husband and I have a little parrot, and his name is Kiwi, and he's got quite a personality, and we have almost 21 years worth of stories with him.
You've had 21 years of this parrot with you?
Yes, and we put our thoughts together and created a little outline of a book.
Yeah.
And going to be starting to do some illustrations. We are actually taking an illustration course at
Together.
the Worcester Art Museum.
Yeah.
So it's to work on that, do a cover for my husband's book because he wrote a book. Actually, he wrote two.
What are they? Tell us what they were. Yeah. Tell us about the books, titles, the books that he wrote.
The Infinite, when it,
Was,
Doesn't know the
I
name.
can't remember
It's
the
okay.
But at any rate, I'm also working on one too. Again, like Sue, I have a history of a wonderful little dog. Her name is Little Miss Sunshine. And she had a big brother, Kramer, which we sadly don't have anymore. But I'm going to be working on the illustrations for Little Miss Kramer and her adventures with the turtle dock.
The turtle.
Yes.
How cool is that? Now, you must be both excited. You're going to help each other with your new books or not?
Oh, sure.
Will you?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you find the time to do this together?
We make time.
You make time.
We
Okay.
find we have to make appointments to do this or it just slips between the cracks. And we're also making time to go do other fun things because we want to keep up our visits to cultural galleries and places like
Yeah.
that. We just have fun with it. It's just
So
fun.
it's not always work. It has to be inspiring and relaxing
Fun,
as well.
yeah, fun. For me, that's a big key thing. I mean, if it's something I'm going to enjoy doing, I'm not going to dread going. It's going to be fun. We are talking with Fern Nissim, and she is an author of the Antiline book, Antiline's Brave Adventure. And right beside her is Sue Fleischman, and she is an artist, as is Fern, and she did a lot of the, would you say, who did the most of the painting and the illustrating?
Even.
It's
We both
about
worked
even.
really
Even
hard on
Steven.
it.
We
Yeah.
worked
It's a
on
good thing you
different
guys get
things.
along right, because I've seen artists and authors banging heads.
Right.
Like, I'm not doing it this way. But you too. But
Yeah.
that's how you met originally, was through
Through the art guild.
Yeah, we made an agreement with each other that the friendship comes first. We feel very fortunate that we
Yeah.
found each other, that we both enjoy so much of the same, and we've just decided that this kind of, if there's any dissension or any disagreement, we will work it out. It's not going to come between our friendship. So
Yeah, that's the most
we work at that.
important.
So, Sue, you live in Marlborough,
Yes, I do.
and Fern, you're in
Shrewsbury.
Shrewsbury.
Mhm.
Where do you meet? Do you go to one of the libraries or your home, or how do you do it?
Sometimes I go to Fern's home. Sometimes she comes over to me.
Yeah.
We meet in the middle sometimes for
And
lunch.
you have workshops in your own home
Yeah.
for the paints and
we
everything?
paint together.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just spend an afternoon painting together.
I really
Working
wasn't
together.
interested in watercolor until recently, and I've seen all the fun things it does.
Oh,
you can do with it.
watercolor.
I'll
It's
tell you
wonderful.
something. Yes, Sue's inspired me. I never worked with watercolors. I always worked with acrylics.
Yeah, me too.
And since I've been working with her, I love watercolors. They're so easy to work with, and I've really been enjoying it. And she's a great teacher. I mean, she's really inspired and motivated me really to
Yeah.
go in there and try it.
What
So it's
did
been
you
great.
do, Sue, before this? What did you used to do?
I worked for a CRO, or a contract research organization, and I coded medical histories, drugs, and adverse events.
You coded
So
with details.
I was in
Yeah.
medical research, that end of it, and before that, in my other life, I was a psychologist.
What did
clinical
you used to do?
psychologist.
Fern?
I had my own marketing company here in this area, but prior to that, I traveled internationally in marketing and public relations and worked with nonprofits for fundraising. But since I've been in the Central Mass area, I've done a lot with fundraising. Matter of fact, my company generated $1 million to launch the Shrewsbury Public Library renovation.
I've been in there.
Yes,
That
it's
is
gorgeous.
really-
It's just gorgeous. I worked with the Boylston Library when they were trying to do a renovation. I worked with the Northborough Library. I did a lot with the libraries. Libraries were my thing. But I also, when I had my own company, I did a lot helping. My goal was to really help women in business and startup companies. So I did a lot with that, worked with my son, and launched a lot of websites.
There is a Women in Business group in Worcester, I believe.
Yeah.
I've read all about them. I get the Worcester Business Journal.
Oh, yeah, there is. But I'm not involved with that anymore. Now I'm just really enjoying my real estate and having fun with art, which is really my dream, and getting to spend time reading my stories to my grandchildren whenever possible.
You know, being in real estate, if I were to tie this together, if you're helping a family with children, little children, find a place, you can also sort of tell them about this.
About little Antiline trying to
yeah.
find her place.
Oh, yeah. Actually, on your desk, if they come to your office, here's the book
Uh-huh.
right there. And think parents, gee, I might, somebody might say, we'd like to have a little poster or a painting done on the wall, like a mural of this. Do you see where I'm going with this? You can really take this.
Well, it's funny. I used to do things like this in my when my kids were growing up. I had a company called Warm Fuzzies, and I did murals on kids' walls. And
Warm
that's fun.
fuzzies.
It was really fun when my kids were young.
Did you use acrylic, right?
I used
Will
acrylic
watercolor
paint.
do well on walls, too?
I don't
No.
think so.
No.
Probably not.
Okay.
No, I used
So you-
acrylics. It
Well,
We
was
need
fun.
something that's going to last.
Right.
And acrylic is plastic, as you know, so the polymers.
How long have you two been working together now? How long on this?
We've known each other a couple of years now, but
Yeah,
this particular project happened over the summer.
Over
Right.
the summer.
Lots of talking about it prior to that. So
Yeah,
we've
we
been,
did.
it's been in process for several months now.
And it's going to
Right.
come out officially in October, next month. What date? Do you know what date yet?
We don't know, but we're hoping by the end of October. In time
Okay,
for the
well,
holiday
again, what's
season.
have you got a website yet?
Not yet. But
How can they reach you again?
Fern at lakefrontliving.com. All one word, lakefrontliving.com.
The illustrations in this are absolutely watercolor with like a Sharpie marker, you draw it. And the talent comes in with how you blended those colors, how you make them stand out. And when you're a little kid and a grown-up, that's important to
fun.
see this.
It was a
You
lot
know,
of
you
fun.
could do grown-up books too, and
Oh,
teens.
sure. I think one of the things that was so much fun is when I was doing a lot of the research for the flowers, I was most impressed with the early drawings and watercolor paintings
Yeah.
from books that were done in the 1930s and 40s
Yeah.
of gorgeous flowers through the seasons. And I was in awe of that. And also I happen to have a beautiful garden. So I was fortunate enough to be able to sit out and look at some of those flowers and paint them as I saw them.
Well, I know that Antiline has a beautiful flowered, kind of like a dress or a robe on her. Whose idea was that?
That was Fern's. That she had to have something to wrap herself up in.
Sure.
We looked through a lot of patterns before we decided on what pattern would work the best for her. Because she did come from a red country. She was a servant. And so we were looking for something a little ethnic looking for her to have to wear around her.
And one of the two things that I loved when I was a kid, because I also had the golden books when I was a child. One golden book is called The Tawny Scrawny Lion. I love the illustrations, and I certainly love Dr. Seuss's Horton Hatches the Egg.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the illustrations, and I enjoyed the facial expressions, so
Yeah.
that's what I was going for. Facial expressions, wrapping up in the robe to say, I'm tired and I'm afraid, or I just feel better now, and her gestures are different.
There is a library, I can't think of it offhand. It's right at the moment, it just slipped my mind. It's over in Sutton, and it's basically dedicated to children's books. There are some adult and some teens, but it's basically, and darn it,
Enchanted Passage.
the what? Enchanted Passage, yes. I don't know why. Yes, and I would, if I were you, would definitely get in touch with them, because I know the owner. She's been on many times, and I think it's really adorable. They have a huge dragon out front. Can't miss it. Wow, for Route 146, get on Armsby Road and you're there.
That's one of our next appointments
Oh,
together.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I could see this definitely. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you for having us on. We appreciate it.
Let me know how you're doing.
We will.
Okay,
Yeah,
definitely see you
we
next
will.
time I'll be my guest.